Hey everybody, this is Craig from 9 Volt Games, and apparently this video is brought to you by Cheez-Its. I didn't realize that shit was in the background, I just see it now. Actually, this video is a request from EA297, and he wanted me to do yeah, that's what this stack is, a Silent Hill versus Resident Evil video. Now, this is kind of hard to do. I haven't even decided the outcome yet, so I'll decide it at the end, I guess. It's hard because Resident Evil's older. So, knowing that firsthand, Resident Evil's older by almost 3 years. Resident Evil 1 came out March 22nd, 1996, and Silent Hill came out January 21st, 99. So it's almost 3 years older. So going by that, I'm going to say that automatically, since Resident Evil's older, it should know better. Fact of the matter is, I'm just going to talk about some high points and then obviously low points. Because here's what happened in both series. They used to be rivals, and what happened was that both of them went so far away from what they used to be and what made them great and like have that rivalry between them, that they're bullshit now. They are. I'm sorry. They make games that some people like, but a majority of the old fans are just pissed with both companies, Konami and Capcom respectively. And what happened with both of them is the original talent that made the original games of the first few installments so great is completely gone. Yeah. I don't know why, but for one, I don't know why they... here's the way it goes. Here's what I'll just break down. Here's the verses. Silent Hill has never been about a strong guy taking on hordes of enemies. Or strong guy or girl. Silent Hill... Did I say that right? Let me try again. Rewind. Yeah. Silent Hill's never been about a strong guy taking on a ton of enemies or a strong girl taking on a ton of enemies. Resident Evil has been that. It's been maybe the character is like meek and blah blah blah, and they got this arsenal of weapons and they go take out hordes of zombies. And by the end, they're like a stronger character. And that's basically how the character development of Resident Evil goes. Silent Hill takes your everyman, your everyday human being, and puts them in a horrible situation. And at least for the first four, I'll give them that. For the first four, they handled it probably the way you would. Completely petrified the whole time, questioning their own sanity, and using what is lying around to defend themselves. So, doing a versus is kind of hard because Silent Hill is all psychological. Resident Evil, for scares, relies on basically like ammunition and pop scares, which is just as good because I love Resident Evil almost the same amount that I love Silent Hill. So let's just go through. Let's talk about these right here. Okay, so I grabbed the wrong one. I'll just put them away as I do it. Otherwise, I'll fucking get lost. This right here. Yes, I had it on Sega Saturn first. However, normal, I don't have all my copies of games, but this is a classic. Anyone who's anybody has played Resident Evil 1. And, you know, bad acting and all that stuff aside, the slow pacing, blah, blah, blah. I think the slow pacing is actually what made Resident Evil 1 scary. No Resident Evil has been scary to me, except for 1. When I was younger, when it first came out, Resident Evil 1 was petrifying to me, and it was the slow pacing. It was the occasional music. The garden house music scared the shit out of me. The music in the hallway, I've talked about this before, the music in the hallway, first time you're going to see Forest Fire, scared the shit out of me. Because I knew something horrible was coming at the end because you're walking down that hallway, there's blood smeared down the hallway, and it's playing this little ding, 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 ding. Yeah, it scared the shit out of me. And back then, video games didn't have great voice acting, so I mean, it totally felt in line with everything else that was being released at the time, whereas you go back now, it's completely laughable. Here's a lockpick. It might come in handy if you, the master of unlocking, take it with you. Yes, like, you were able to look over that shit back in the day. Obviously, you can't now. So, I played the crap out of Resident Evil, man. I beat Resident Evil so many times. I remember the first time I beat the game with Chris, and I got that little statement being like, ooh, you're a tough guy, or ooh, what a tough guy, and they gave me the rocket launcher with infinite ammo. Like, I was pumped. I played the crap out of that. Resident Evil 2, I could play blindfolded, probably. I've beaten that game so many times. I can beat that game without saving, without using any health, anything. I utterly destroyed that game. I even tried the Akuma challenge, which turned out to be fake, where if you beat the game 6 times with just a handgun and a knife, you can unlock Akuma, which was April Fool's joke. You got this guy. So, Resident Evil wasn't the first survival horror game, but it was the first one to grab mass appeal and make people afraid of zombies again, really. And then this came out. Fireworks. Best part of this is everyone who saw it when it first came out, my crew of people, everyone who saw it said the same thing. Looks like it's a ripoff of Resident Evil. But the part that made me want to pay attention to it is the fact that we all got introduced to it the same way. On the back of the instruction manual in Metal Gear Solid. Yeah. So Metal Gear Solid's a badass game. Konami's putting out these badass games. Silent Hill's got to be pretty decent. And Silent Hill did have mediocre acting. The voice acting was better than Resident Evil. But something was very different about this game to me, and I instantly liked it more than any Resident Evil I played at that point. And I think at this point, I was playing this, and I was getting ready for, what the hell is the game? Oh yeah, Resident Evil Nemesis, which I love Resident Evil Nemesis. I'll talk about that after. So, Silent Hill came out, and it scared the shit out of you on multiple levels. It scared the shit out of you to the point where you didn't know what you were going to fight. You were severely unprepared for any fight that you were going to be in. You barely had any ammo. You were using a stick. I mean, you were using a pipe. Like, you had nothing to fight with. And these things just wanted to kill you. And you didn't know why until, like, halfway through the game. And at least with zombies, you understand they want to eat your brains and blah, blah, blah. Like, the things were petrifying in here. You had children wielding knives in a school, or gray children wielding knives in a school coming at you. And then if you go to the 3rd floor, there's like a little baby ghost walking around, and every time it squeaked, it scared the shit out of me. It doesn't attack you, but there's one thing that this held over Resident Evil for me, and that was the simple fact that when you went to that school, and you went in that bathroom, and a girl was crying in the bathroom, and there was nobody there, no way, man. I was like, and I was younger too, I was petrified. All the music in this game, if played in the dark, scared the shit out of me. I couldn't sleep. So, Silent Hill became the scary game, the scary horror game, and Resident Evil was the badass horror game. But that's where I started to draw a distinctive line where Resident Evil wasn't even a horror game to me anymore. So I think that my progression with the newer ones, I take it a lot more lightly than other fans do because of how invested I got in Silent Hill. That I understand that at its core, Resident Evil is just an action game because it gives you a large arsenal of weapons like an FPS game. And it has you go after these fucking big monsters, but you have weapons to match. Whereas Silent Hill, like I said, you don't have weapons to match. And Silent Hill 2, when that came along, you could play the game without actually fucking using weapons at certain points. However, I digress. Both of them were badass. Both of those games defined my teenage years of playing games because I am a survival horror game at its core, at my core. I am a survival horror game, and these two games are the best that have to offer. Oh my god. These two games are the best series, no matter where they've gone now. These two games are the best series. And I don't care if you people want to come at me with your Amnesia and your Dead Space and all that crap. Silent Hill and Resident Evil weren't the first, I will say that. They weren't the first survival horror games, but they are the most popular names for a reason. Then we moved on to this. Oh yes, Resident Evil 2. Now, obviously Resident Evil 2 came out before Silent Hill. Resident Evil 2 is my favorite in the series. It let you play as two people. Their stories connected with each other to the point where, like, you know, your first playthrough with one character would affect the second playthrough with the second character. Not to the extent that, you know, Mass Effect does with carrying up your save now. But still, it was cool to see everything that you did being reflected on the other side when you did Scenario B. So that was pretty cool to me. Resident Evil 2 just had everything that I wanted, and it had the pop scares, and it had way better voice acting. I mean, there was a couple cheesy moments, when Ada falls down the fucking elevator shaft, like, Ada! That was terrible. But Resident Evil 2, to me, is the highest point. I know we'll get to the other one, but as far as the tank-controlled game that we all grew up with and we loved, and where it started from, Resident Evil 2 was the best to me. And I do love Nemesis. I love it a lot. But 2 is just... I always think of Nemesis as a side story, because technically it is a side story, but it's still Resident Evil 3. Okay. So then we get into this. Now, with this down, I had already played Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 2, Code Veronica. And all we had for that was Silent Hill. Silent Hill 2 came out. Now, the big thing in Resident Evil is all the stories connect with each other at some point, to some point. They're all connected. All the characters do eventually meet up with each other if they're still alive. And, the basic line is always the same. Umbrella Corporation, Umbrella Corporation, Umbrella Corporation. Silent Hill stories are all different. And Silent Hill is different as it's perceived by the protagonist at the time. People didn't realize that until Silent Hill 2 came out. Because when Silent Hill 2 came out, the graphics were amazing, the sound was amazing, the fog was scary as shit. You're playing as this dude named James. People like me are playing like, all right, well, how's Harry gonna tie into this? Where's Cheryl? All this stuff. There's no Alessa, there's no Dahlia, there's nothing about it. And you're playing this game, and a majority of the time, nothing's going on. But the first time that I played this game, you didn't know what the hell was going on. Because you played Silent Hill 1. You know that enemies are coming. You know that they can kill you. Like, danger is very real in that game. And Silent Hill 2 was all in your head. Everything was in your head. And the depth of that game that went into the story is insane. Out of any of these games, any Silent Hill, any Resident Evil, Silent Hill 2 had the best story, or I should say was the best written, simply because everything was up to the perception of the protagonist. Everything was driven by James, and that's insane to me. As far as you could tell, I did my interpretations of it, but as far as you could tell, there's nothing there. This dude could have been walking through a full town, wildly swinging planks, and you know what I mean? Like, he could have not even gotten a Silent Hill. Like, there's so many variables about it that, like, I still don't grasp in Silent Hill 2, and I've played it a lot, and I feel like I get it, and there's still things I do not get. So, for Silent Hill 2, is hands down the best, because everything, and they've said it in the Book of Memories, not that shitty video game, the Book of Memories, that everything is left up to player interpretation, and I love that. I love that everything's left up to player interpretation. Further games, they claim that it's left up to your interpretation. It's not. It's not. We'll get into that. But when Silent Hill 2 came out, Resident Evil was like, to me, I was like, who the fuck is Resident Evil? They have nothing on this. And then we had this. Silent Hill 3, which did connect back to Silent Hill 1. The connection point was awesome. What I loved about it is, I've never done why I love Silent Hill 3. I do like Silent Hill 3, but Silent Hill 3 is very combat heavy. Heather had to fight off a lot of demons, and I understand now. As you play through the game, you understand why all this shit's being thrown at her. And the connection point, which I don't want to ruin it if nobody's beat it. Oh, fuck it, I will. The point where you get back and the book is there. And she reads it after Harry dies, and they're driving to Silent Hill, because the first portion of Silent Hill 3 didn't even take place in Silent Hill. And that was awesome. What wasn't awesome was that shitty Revelations movie that was made that tried to be 3 and it wasn't. So then, Silent Hill 3 was good. Obviously not as good as 2 to me, but to a lot of people, Silent Hill 3 is actually, I'd say to like, it's split down the middle of true Silent Hill fans, Silent Hill 2 or Silent Hill 3. So, Silent Hill 3 definitely earned its place. It is an amazing game. Amazing game. And then this came out. Oh yes. Resident Evil 4. This shit was teased as fucking there was ghosts, and this was actually when it was first teased. This game looked like a blatant ripoff of a Silent Hill. Absolutely. You don't believe me? Go back and look at the old beta version videos of this when it was all ghosts and shit, and they just had that vibe, you know. Obviously, there's another thing before this. I know. We'll go back and I'll do that after. However, Resident Evil 4 was so goddamn good, and the reason I said and I love it. I think. Let me say this correctly. Resident Evil 2 is my favorite Resident Evil game. Okay? Resident Evil 4 is my favorite Resident Evil game. Let me explain. Resident Evil 4 was so vastly different from the previous titles, and it dictated what is Resident Evil now. And it was extremely successful and extremely well received by critics and fans and blah, blah, blah. It's not Resident Evil. It's not. I mean, it had to do with Umbrella Corporation. It didn't have to do with Umbrella Corporation. They did the whole cult thing. It was in Spain. And, I mean, they had the Umbrella backstory. But I try not to tell a lot of people a lot of stuff about Resident Evil 4. I beat it multiple times on multiple different consoles. Because if you've never played Resident Evil 4, I highly suggest playing it. It is amazing. Especially if you're playing the new ones and you haven't played 4. Fuck you. Leon is the most badass character in Resident Evil, as far as good guys go. It was amazing, man. And this was the scariest Resident Evil game, for the simple fact of there was a lot of oh shit. Look up the Japanese guy fighting the El Gigante. You'll see what I was talking about. That video was fucking hilarious. That guy was flipping out. It's scary. There was a lot of scary oh shit moments. There was a lot of QTE parts. And the QTE parts weren't over fucking done like they are in the newer games. But the QTE parts were done perfectly. And the best part is, I think everybody got burned by the same thing. The QTE battle. Why can't I remember that? The QTE battle with Krauser. Because it was in the middle of a cutscene. And it turned into a QTE battle with a QTE knife fight. Everybody I know got stabbed. Everybody. But Resident Evil, man, this brought it back for me, and I was like, dude, Resident Evil's getting it back. We're at this point. We're getting to this point in Silent Hill, and I didn't really like The Room because Resident Evil 4 was so fucking good, and I was like, Silent Hill 4, what the fuck are you doing? But I followed Silent Hill, and I followed Silent Hill like crazy, so I knew that Silent Hill 4, when it was originally being made, it was not called Silent Hill 4, it's just called The Room. And it wasn't going to have anything to do with Silent Hill. It was going to be an original IP. And what I think happened is Konami got scared about putting out a new IP or a new horror IP and slapped Silent Hill on there so that it would sell. Now, this was the last true Silent Hill to me. It was made by Team Silent. It's the last true Silent Hill. I'm sorry, it is the last true Silent Hill. I can't say that with any of them in Resident Evil because all Resident Evil still follow the same pattern, just not the same gameplay. But Silent Hill: The Room was the last great one, and I'll get into why in a second. The Room was scary. It was a scary game. The Room scared the shit out of me. I think as far as like visuals go, The Room is the scariest, hands down. Silent Hill 2 had the whole like encompassing atmosphere. And everything came together, making it the scariest out of all of them. But as far as like what you see in the game, 4 is the scariest. The story was really wacky. The character, I didn't like the character. I did not like the character at all. I didn't like that there was other people in there like helping. You know what I mean, with Eileen and stuff. I didn't like all that extra stuff. I don't know. I mean, Silent Hill 2 had extra people, but they weren't, like, attached to you at any points in the game, you know. There was, like, one part where you had to walk with Maria, and you had to keep her safe. But we all know how that ended. But this one, I don't know. It felt really forced on you. The whole Silent Hill aspect felt forced on you. You know, Robbie the Rabbit in a room, stuff like that. It started what I don't like about the series. Robbie the Rabbit was Heather. Keep it out of the rest of it. You know what I mean? There was a slight connection to 2 in here, which was a nice nod. The superintendent of his apartment building was supposedly James's dad. So, I don't know. I mean, when it came out, I beat it. Yeah, I beat the crap out of it. I was high all the time. I loved it. It was Silent Hill. And I played it sober, and I was like, you know what? It's not as good as the rest. Silent Hill's starting to go downhill. Okay. Then this one came out. This is the worst Silent Hill in my opinion. Okay? Now, it had a nice twist at the end, but there was a lot of offensive things about it. Okay? I'm not going to really bash Origins, because, Origins came before. I'm not going to bash Origins because a lot of people did like it. It did attempt, at least make an attempt, to go back to the original formula. And Silent Hill tried to emulate... Silent Hill Homecoming tried to emulate Silent Hill, and it did not work. And what happened was, it pissed me off. It pissed a lot of people off, because it wasn't Silent Hill. I'm sorry. And the one thing they did that was really offensive in this title is they put Pyramid Head in there, and he didn't need to be in here. And the worst offensive part is that it wasn't the Pyramid Head that we know. It was the fucking movie Pyramid Head, which had its place in the movie because they changed the origin story of Pyramid Head. But Pyramid Head is James's demon. It did not need to be in here. If they really wanted to put something in there that was like a tormentor or... I don't know. I don't care about ruining this for you, but, if you get the Bogeyman or the Pyramid Head ending, they make Alex into a Pyramid Head. That's dumb. That shit's dumb. I don't know. It's fucking offensive. It's offensive. It's the first time I showed him, it was like, oh shit, I'm gonna have to fight Pyramid Head in here. And then the more you think about it, you're like, oh shit, why do I have to fight Pyramid Head in here? This guy's not a fucking dirty sexual fucking being who snuffed out his wife. Come on, man. I don't know. It was offensive. And I know Downpour has a lot of nods to the older Silent Hills. I mean, it's got the fucking room in it. But at least the main antagonist wasn't... They could have easily superimposed Pyramid Head in there, and they didn't. Because it's like they got the point. Like, you can't do that. You can't use a previous enemy. It's not like Wesker, who's a constant in Resident Evil. Wesker is the bad guy of Resident Evil. He is the bad guy. And I think that's why when it came down to Homecoming and Resident Evil 5 was better. I liked Resident Evil 5 a lot. And I did not like the whole co-op component multiplayer shit. I wanted that out. I want that out. I don't want that in Resident Evil. I think that's extremely damaging to the series, is when you start putting multiplayer in a horror game. However, Resident Evil 5, at least when you saw Wesker, there was a purpose of why Wesker was there. There was, and there was a definitive end at the end of Resident Evil 5. And Wesker is basically explaining why Wesker has played this part through this entire series. So it's not like they ever threw Wesker in a game to make him look cool. He needs to be in there. You know what I mean? And even in Operation Raccoon City, at least they're throwing back like classic bosses, but it has a reason, because of the time place. It's taking... fucking no. Silent Hill is supposed to be different for everybody. Be original thinkers and make different enemies for each person. You know what I mean? The nurses are always there because the nurses are a staple to Silent Hill. Everybody has to fight the nurses. Everybody has to fight the nurses. Everyone needs to fight a sexy nurse. I don't know. Okay. So I showed you the worst Silent Hill. This is the worst Resident Evil. This is the worst Resident Evil. There's no horror in Resident Evil at this point. It is no longer a horror game. It is an action game. This is the worst because when it was shown, everyone was knowing, like, okay, the action bit, they're still going with it. But hey, it's going to tie everybody's stories in together. It got so fucking insane. And I played this co-op. And the co-op portion was fun. But this is not a Resident Evil game. This is not a Resident Evil game. Resident Evil, I'm being honest, Resident Evil should have died with Wesker in 5. They should have either went back and tried to reboot another game, 2, remake 2, please, or they should have just started Resident Evil from a fresh perspective. Maybe try and make it more survival like Silent Hill. where it's a regular person who's trying to survive the outbreak. You know what I mean? Like, do something like that. Don't do this whole, like, army, oh my god, look at all these clones, blah, 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 blah. It's like they're trying to bring the game into the movie universe, and the movies are fucking terrible. Stop going to see the Resident Evil movies. I went and saw the first 3 in theaters. And I'm dumb. I feel dumb for even saying that. They're terrible. They're not good, guys. What's wrong with you? That's like the Silent Hill thing. It's they take the movies and they throw the characters in. Very poor interpretations of the characters, by the way. And they do it to make it seem cool, and it's not cool. It's not cool. Guys, it's terrible. At least with the Silent Hill film, the second one was horrendous. The Silent Hill Revelations was worse than any of the Resident Evil movies by far. But the Resident Evil movies are fucking terrible. The first one wasn't so bad. Because the first one kind of showed you, like, listen, this is not the game. This is different from the game. It's the only real connection that we have to the game is that for some reason we're going to make a liquor turn into a William Birkin. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like they did that and they had nods. But it was pretty upfront that it was not the game. Now the game's trying to emulate the movie, and it's just terrible. Terrible. Terrible, terrible. As of right now, Silent Hill has not made any HD remakes, but there is that big rumor that Resident Evil 2 is going to be remade, and I think Capcom will do it properly. They will not fuck up. They will not fuck up, because as much as Capcom likes to fuck their fans over, Capcom really likes to please their fans too, which I know is double negative, but it's true. They really do like keeping their fans happy. So if people are telling Capcom, remake Resident Evil 2 and remake Resident Evil 2 and that's it, don't fucking make it to Resident Evil 6, they'll listen. They will listen. They do listen to their fans when it comes to fighting games and all that stuff. So I don't really see them severely fucking up. We all know my feelings on this. Yes, there are bugs in this game. Are they game-breaking? No. Are the new voices terrible? No. Dude, Troy Baker is not a terrible voice actor. I'm sorry, but doesn't he voice someone even said on here? Did he voice the main fucking character? Was it Booker in BioShock Infinite? And you guys love that game. Oh, and you love the voice acting and stuff. Oh, Troy Baker is such a terrible, terrible voice actor. No, he's not. The voices were actually good. I am attached to Silent Hill as much as any other Silent Hill fan. So when they first showed this and they said new voices, I literally facepalmed myself. Probably the point I got a bloody nose. I just did it over and over again. Why are you doing that? The new voices aren't so bad. They are not so bad. You can go back and play 2 with the original voices. As far as their laziness with 3, that's on Konami, blah, blah, blah. There's no more Team Silent, so I don't know what you guys really want. You can cry and say, oh my god, it's not the finished code and blah, blah, blah. This game has bugs. Every game has bugs, and it is still playable. I don't care what anybody says. And if I get any hate about that, please check my channel. I have an entire playthrough of Silent Hill 2 on the Xbox 360 HD edition, and you can see. There's nothing so bad that it like graphical hangs and stuff like that, cutscene hangs, where I've had to shut off the console. There's been one that was, I think there was one that was skippy through the entire thing. I don't know. And the other thing is, the other big one that people are complaining and literally not going out and buying it for is like, the submachine gun fucking doesn't sound right. Stop using submachine gun in Silent Hill. You should be using submachine gun in Silent Hill, you pussy. And as far as reimaginings go, for the first in the series, Resident Evil's gonna win this one. Because this shit was simply amazing. GameCube exclusive, well now it's on the Wii. Resident Evil remake. Oh my god. This is what I'm talking about. When Capcom wants to remake something and they'll do it right, that shit was done right. That was done amazing. Take cues from that. When you do Resident Evil 2, holy shit. Resident Evil on the GameCube was so good. They had that crazy like dynamic lighting system where you're walking through and it's fucking thundering outside and it scares the shit out of you. Chandelier shake and fucking light reflects off your character. This game still looks amazing, even in the generation that we're in right now of consoles. And Crimson Head scared the shit out of me. Even though I knew they were there. It's when you know, fucking leave the mansion, you come back the second time to the mansion, these zombies that you killed get back up and just fucking run after you with claws. Scary as shit. And then this one gets a lot of hate. A lot of people are bashing it, and I don't know why. Dude, Shattered Memories was an amazing reimagining. It is not a remake. It is a reimagining. And I think the people who don't like it must have played it on the PSP or must have played it on the PS2. Because with the Wii, well, this shit is intense. I mean, you're taking your fucking pins and nunchuck here. When you gotta run, you're running like this. Like, it's intense. You get that button that made you look back. I know they put that in the fucking downpour, but you look behind your shoulder, see something chasing you, they get on your back, you gotta fucking shake them off. There was a lot of sex put into this one too, but you know, you can compare characters from the first game to this one, but the fact of the matter is that this is a different game than one. However, as far as reimaginings go, they really didn't fuck anything up to the point where this is like, this game's no good. This game was amazing on the Wii. I do have the PS2 version. This game was amazing on the Wii, and if you're ever going to like reimagine a classic game, that's the way to do it. Make it its own separate entity. Don't try and emulate blah blah blah. That was a good game. It strayed a bit from the formula. It still felt like Silent Hill. Like, I don't know. There was high and low points of the game. Someone tapping on my window. I don't know. It's creepy because I'm talking about survival horror and there's like someone just tapping on my window. But yeah, I mean, they both have fallen from grace, and sadly, for both series, the thing that you need to reinvigorate both series will not happen. Original creator of Resident Evil will not come back. Akira will not come back to Silent Hill. I guarantee you it would come back if they got Team Silent, but that's so far gone now. It's not going to happen. And American companies, we can't make psychological horror, and that's what... I mean, Resident Evil's got a better chance of bouncing back simply because, like I said earlier, right in the beginning of the video, Resident Evil, while it's listed as survival horror, has always been an action game at its core. It has. It has the element of horror with zombies, but zombies aren't really scary. So it has a chance to bounce back. With the right person overseeing it, Resident Evil could be good again. If they did exactly what I said, go back and show the Outbreak from a different perspective right from the beginning, and you could totally have an amazing game. Silent Hill is really fucked because there's only one team that did it right, and no other team has been able to do it right, and it won't happen. Even when that team, the new team, did the HD remakes, they still fucked some things up. How do you do that when something's already set into place? I know how you do that. You have Tom Hewlett. I hate that guy. I hate that guy so goddamn much. So, as far as it goes, and this is going to sadden me, and I probably should drink while you get it, Resident Evil's going to win. Resident Evil's going to win simply because it sold over 50 million units. Silent Hill doesn't even come close to that, guys. And I know it's not about sales, but Resident Evil will outlast Silent Hill, sadly, because what was the other fact I read? All the Resident Evil movies that are so shitty have progressively made more money with each release than any fucking video game adaptation of anything. It's sad because what we're all doing is we are all bringing these games to their demise. We are all doing it. All these series are getting destroyed because they are making shit and we continuously buy it. I own Resident Evil 6. I own Operation Raccoon City. I own 2 copies of Downpour. I own 2 copies of Homecoming. I own both copies of HD Collection. I buy this shit when it comes out, and I'm just as guilty as you guys. I went and saw Revelation in theaters. I know it was shitty. I talked about how shitty it was. I still bought it on 3D Blu-ray. Why? Because I love it, and I'm hoping that the more money I throw at these things, maybe somebody will smarten up and they'll be like, listen, the fans are still for some reason supporting us, and they need to fix this. Both these franchises need to get their shit together. The sad thing is, like I just said, Resident Evil is, I should have looked this up, but I know it's in the top 3. I'm not sure if it's number 1. But it is Capcom's one of their top selling franchises. I'm pretty sure it's number 1. I'd have to look it up. But I know it's in the top 3. I can't say the same thing for Konami. I don't know. I haven't even cared to look it up. Because after The Room, I've just been getting less and less excited. Even though I buy these games on launch day and there's like a glimmer of hope. The one thing that Silent Hill had going for it is the hardcore fans knew. Once Akira said that he was no longer going to be involved in Silent Hill on his own volition, you started to realize, alright, it's going downhill. You had to slowly accept it, whether you like it or not. It's going downhill because the main element was Akira behind all these, and he's gone. It's gone. Capcom let go of their big element, and what happens, actually? They both come together with Suda 51, and they make another underappreciated game, which was Shadows of the Damned. So if you never played that, that is the best of Killer 7, Silent Hill, Resident Evil, smashed together. But yeah. So sadly, Resident Evil is going to win. Even though, out of all these games, Silent Hill 2 is still the best. Resident Evil sadly going to win. Shame my family. Thank you guys for watching.